That way people who wanted to join us but couldn't can join. So this is the WEConnect International Day. It's actually the social media webinar, and we'll be going through a few things. We had a series of webinars starting with an overview of WEConnect International Day and what it's about and the WeBank conference. Then we went through how to prepare for the conference and turning your, identifying your market and then turning those contacts you make into true connections and building those relationships. So those prep webinars can be found on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/WeConnection. And for today, I'm going to talk about how to use social media at a conference, and specifically how to use social media when you are in Austin, both at WEConnect International Day and the WeBank conference. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why you might want to do it, some tips for some of the hashtags and handles that you want to consider following right now, so you can have that done in time for the conference, and then just some tips as we go through. I will give you my caveat, I have been working in this space in terms of women business owners for about 12 years. I started out at the U.S.-based organization and the regional affiliate of WeBank. I worked in New York and Washington, D.C., and then I moved over to WEConnect International about 4 years ago. I'm not a social media expert, so I'm not our communications director, so I think the reason that I'm doing this is so I can show you that you don't have to be someone with a communications background or a millennial. I'm not a millennial to be able to do some of these things at a conference. And so I'm going to keep it pretty basic, and we're not going to go through a whole overview of social media and why it's important. One caveat, one follow-up to that is that if you do have a social media strategy, if you do have a communications person, if I say anything that's in conflict with that person, you should definitely follow the advice of someone who knows your brand and knows your strategy, and to do that. So I'm just giving you some tools to use. You can take what you need. So Lana, do you use social media now? Do you have a Twitter account or a Facebook account?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, and is that for yourself personally or your business, or do you have two separate ones?
I have separate ones.
Okay, great, excellent. Real quickly, I'm going to go through WeConnect International, though. I suspect that since you're on the call, you probably know a little bit about us. We're connecting non-U.S. women business owners to global value chains. We have a global network of women-owned businesses from over 90 countries, and we certify, so we have WBEs in 17 countries. We are pretty active on social media, and I'll get into that. But one of the values that we find with social media is obviously having this big international network. It allows us to connect with business owners and the people that work for us all over the world really quickly. We're able to share pictures and share updates right away. So that's all to say I'm going to be talking a lot about this conference and how to use it for this conference, but we use social media beyond the conference, and I think it's good to think about how you can use these tools once you go back home to connect with all the people that you connected with while you're there. So our corporate leadership, this is probably the reason why you're here. It's the reason why most of the WBEs get certified and come to our programs. I use this slide because most of these companies, I haven't gone through every single one, but just about all of them do have a Twitter account, and some of them have Facebook accounts. So when we talk about, in my previous webinars, we talk a lot about doing your homework on the people you want to approach at the conference, that you want to be really prepared when you get there so you can offer them not only this is my product and my service, but you can offer them a solution. And their Twitter feeds will oftentimes provide you some insight into that. I've seen in several cases that while sending a letter to a customer complaint office might not get you any responses, oftentimes if people tweet complaints or observations to these companies, they respond right away because Twitter and Facebook are so public. Now, I don't recommend that. If you want to do business with these companies, that's not to complain to them in public. However, since it is public, you can get a lot of insight into what's going on with them, maybe some of the pain points or good things that they're doing that you can bring up to them when you see them at the conference. And we'll go through, what I'm talking about, but a good example is any awards they might have won. That's a great thing to bring up. It's positive, and it's something you can congratulate them on and show that you have done your homework, that you know a little bit about them. In terms of the way you might use complaints or comments like that, I wouldn't directly bring it up, but it can bring you to, oh, okay, I have a solution for this. For example, if people are complaining to Microsoft about one of their programs, it's hard to use, it's really wonky. You can say, oh, well, I actually have a product or service that can help people address those issues, that can train them, that can make it more user-friendly, that kind of thing. Lana, what does your company do? What's a little bit about your product or service so I can talk directly about that?
Actually, I'm an RPO. I'm with Alberta Women Entrepreneurs. So
oh, great.
I'm really on this call to learn about it and make some notes to send out to our entrepreneurs who are actually going to be there.
Excellent.
So I'm really, learning.
Awesome. Great. And is AWE doing anything on social media then? Are you in charge of that?
I'm not in charge of that, but we do have two people who run our Twitter account, our Facebook account, and then we do have some stuff on LinkedIn, some groups. I do manage one of the groups on LinkedIn, so we're trying to, we're trying to keep the social media thing active.
That's great. And so I'm just going to pull up your Twitter feed so I can just take a look at what you're doing, and then we can, we'll at least have a good, even though the business owners will be looking at it from a slightly different perspective, we can at least, we'll all be on the same page, so that's great. I'm glad you brought up LinkedIn. I'm really glad you brought up LinkedIn because that's a great resource, too, for keeping in touch with people, and I'll get a little bit more into that. Yeah. So hashtags and handles. So these are some of the hashtags and handles that you want to consider as you're going to the conference and you're reaching out to both the corporate members and the WBEs that are going to be there. This is just to get you started. It's by no means an exhaustive list, and I'll just go through a little bit about each of them. For the hashtag WECI 2015, that's the hashtag for WEConnect International Day, and highlights about that will be tweeted regularly. And we've already started tweeting some things. So you can get, the thing about Twitter is that you can get really live updates and up-to-the-minute information about what's going on. When you follow these handles, you can also get a sense. So I think, for example, in Alberta, a lot of people might be interested in the WeConnect Canada handle, which is actually, that's not a typo on the screen. It's WeConnect Canada 1, that's the handle. But if a business owner is interested in doing business in Europe, might be interested in the WeConnect Europe 1. And WeConnection is the Twitter feed that oversees all of those. I think it's good, it's a good idea to start following them now, like I said, so you can see what's coming up. You can see maybe who's coming and what you can expect. I also put in some of the individual handles for some of the people that work for us. There's our CEO, which is at CEO Vasquez. There's also my own Twitter handle, which is at LCollinDC, and then at Carrie L. Murphy. So those are probably our biggest tweeters from WeConnect International. And I say that because there's going to be very different kinds of tweets between a person, an individual who has their individual picture as their avatar, and the organizations. And we can take a look at that in a little bit. Also, the other companies that you want to follow, like I mentioned before, the corporations, these WeConnect International corporate members that you want to approach while you're at the conference. And then it's a good idea just in general to follow them if they are current clients or if you want to do business with them, because it gives you, like I mentioned, good points of interest. Keep in mind that if you're going to follow them, you might just want to search online, and I recommend doing this in advance so you're not doing it on the fly. There's Walmart Canada. You might sometimes put in, if someone from Ernst & Young is speaking, for example, you might be tempted to put in, okay, I'm going to tweet at them at EY, whereas they might have different departments. For example, I know EY has at EY News that retweets a lot. So you just want, to the extent that you can in advance, so you're not doing it from your phone on the fly, you want to follow the companies so you have them ready to go while you're there. And then some other hashtags that you want to follow are hashtag WeBank2015, hashtag WeBankConf, and then at By Women Owned, which is a specific Twitter feed dedicated to the women-owned logo and the companies and products that are using that. So those are all places to get you started. And as you look at them, which we'll do in a second, you'll see what all is going on in those feeds and what relates to the conference and how it might help you. And then I do have a note just to look at Facebook as well. If you're taking pictures and you have a lot of really good content from the conference, Facebook is a good place to sort of consolidate what you've done in terms of tweeting, either for the day or for the week, and just put it all in one place. So if you tweeted a picture here, and maybe you have a statistic there, or you took a selfie with Danica Patrick, that's all great stuff to have that you can, you want to tweet immediately because time is of the essence with Twitter. But then with Facebook, you can also sort of post an album about this was my WeBank conference. So you can paste a consolidation of what went on over the whole week. So I'm going to share my screen and just show a little bit about what that looks like. So here we're starting with actually the AWE Twitter feed. I pulled that up. This is the AWE website, and then let's go to the Twitter feed. So this is actually, I'm glad we looked at this because this has a great example of a tweet right at the top. According to the Global Entrepreneur Monitor report, over 20% of Alberta entrepreneurs expect to employ 10 people and grow 50% in 5 years. One of the key things, and I will get into this in a little bit, to keep in mind when you're interacting on social media, and I'm talking about Twitter, but for LinkedIn and Facebook, this is true too. People are really likely to share information that has metrics and pictures or videos in those. So one of the roles that AWE has is getting this information out about people in Alberta. So that's a great statistic. When you look at, I'm going to take you over to WeConnect International's account, and we're tweeting a lot about what's going on International Day. One of our roles when we're at the conference is to make sure that for the women business owners that aren't there, we are getting that information out to them. So any statistics, any metrics, any news and updates are all key to get out via Twitter so that the people that are following us on this hashtag, they can see what we're what they're missing. And they're not missing it because we're able to get that information out to them. So while that's the role of WeConnect International and AWE, as a business, you might have a very different target for what you're doing with your social media. And again, I would urge you to go back to your overall marketing strategy, your overall social media strategy, and look at what your objectives are while you're there. Do you want to be seen as a thought leader? Do you want to be seen as a connector of your followers to information? Then stats and info is great. And I would recommend if you have a business Twitter feed and a personal Twitter feed, that there's going to be some differences in there. And I'll show you that as well. So this is WeConnect International. We're following some other people that are attending, so there's retweets there. The business owners are coming from 14 different countries. There's 200 corporate representatives. So we're really getting information out to get people excited about the conference. I think one of my favorite things that we've sent out this week is an infographic about how to prepare to make a WeConnection, to make that connection between a business owner and a corporate member. And while I've done 3 webinars, and this is the 4th one about this information, I really like this infographic because it distills all of that information into a simple picture about how to approach a corporate buyer. And the other good thing about this is, well, I mentioned metrics are really important in terms of people sharing and engaging with you. Another thing that's really important is pictures. And infographics actually perfectly combine those 2 things, just some metrics, some valuable information, but then it's presented visually, so it's easy to share and look at. So that's a little bit of an example of how WeConnect International as an organization tweets. I'm going to go to my own Twitter feed, and I use Hootsuite for this. And you can look at my Twitter feed. So I'm sharing some things about our corporate members, also about the luncheon speakers. Some of the handles that I didn't put into this slide, but that are important to follow, are also the speakers. So when Jonathan Sprinkles, who's going to be speaking on Thursday, when you can not only follow him and see that he's counting down to Austin and what information he's sharing, but when he's speaking, if he says something very interesting that you want to quote, you already have his handle ready to go, and you're not sort of searching for Jonathan Sprinkles. Is this the same one? You know, is that who I am tweeting at? So I think the main difference, too, between the WeConnect tweets and my personal tweets are that you can add a little bit of your own personality into them. So looking back at that tweet I just mentioned with the infographic, here I retweeted WeConnection, and it's the same information. And what I added was just a little, I love this. And you can see people retweeted it, and there's a couple of favorites. That's the main difference. If you're thinking, okay, am I tweeting this for my company or am I tweeting this for myself? You want to think, is this about me and, you know, personally something I think, or I want people to engage with me personally on this topic, or is this information that my company is sharing to position myself in that way? So that's a very simple way to break it down. And I would say an easy way is, are there numbers and a metric, and that's maybe good for your company, or are there feelings? Am I saying, this speaker is so inspiring, or I'm so proud to be a part of this network? The feelings are really more personal and are better taken from your individual account, whereas from your company, you want to keep that brand consistent across your organization, and you maybe want to do a little more metrics or numbers. Again, if your social media person, your communications person says something different, then you should keep in line with that. So when I the other, okay, I'm going to get into some more tools in a second, but I also just want to highlight for some people, when I say follow a hashtag versus following a handle, what does that mean? So I'm going to go back here to the WEConnect International handle. So basically, this is online, I just put in twitter.com/WeConnection, and this @WeConnection comes up. This is all the tweets. This is what's called the timeline, and you can see all of WeConnect's tweets. You can see the tweets and replies. You can see the photos and videos that they've put in. So that's WeConnect International's handle. If you want to tweet something to WeConnection, like you want to respond to something they're saying or mention them in one of your tweets, then you put in @WeConnection. Now the value of the hashtag is different. So when I tweet on the when I click on the hashtag WECI 2015, the value of that is it allows everyone who's attending the International Day Conference and everyone who's interested in it, so who's going to be at home or at their offices trying to follow the events, everyone, when you put in WECI 2015, your tweets will appear in that feed with everything else that's happening in relation to International Day. So when I scroll down, you can see here that here's a picture from Sydney Frank talking about the Karnataka administrative chief who's coming to our conference, and she's going to meet the minister from Canada, Kelly Leach, there. And so she's actually posted a picture and information about that. You can also see my tweet appears there, and then you know, other people that are actually interacting with each other as they go through the WECI 2015 hashtag. So when you're tweeting to a person, you use their handle, and when you're tweeting, when you want to get together with a group of people, you use the hashtag. And so you can see why that's really valuable for a conference, because everyone is going to be in the same place, if not at the conference, then virtually. And what you're able to do is just, it's basically what it provides for you is a filter of the people that are there. I'm going to go to the hashtag 2015, WeMake 2015, so you can see a little bit more. Now, and this is where, you know, Jonathan Sprinkles, the speaker, has a specific tweet to the WeBank conference. You can see some of the WBEs are tweeting, and some of the corporate members are tweeting. So this is a good place to get a sense of not only which companies are coming. I mean, you can look at the exhibitor list and things I've talked about in the previous webinars about how to do that, but you can see which of the corporations are active on social media and which ones are going to be probably tweeting while they're at the conference as well. So you can see Shell, you can see the Canada Trade Commissioner has tweeted. These are, it's all good to get a sense of, okay, these are the people that if I am tweeting during the conference, they're going to be interacting with me, which is great. The other value of that is, so Artec is a sponsor of the conference. She's speaking on Thursday. She's introducing Danica Patrick, so she's taken this opportunity to post a picture and mention Danica Patrick and a NASCAR racer and put a link in here. So for most of the WBEs, sponsoring the conference isn't an option. The reason why you would sponsor the conference, or it's just not feasible, or you didn't get to it in time, and that's fine. One of the values of what social media can do for you is that it can put you right here in the same place with the same visibility as other WBEs, as the Canada Trade Minister, and as Shell. So the only thing you have to do to make your tweet appear here with this list of people is to use the hashtag WeBank 2015 or WeBankConf that everyone else is using. And so you can actually get more visibility for your company among these other people. Not only that, but you can also start to interact with them. One of the best ways, I think, to approach a corporation is to thank them for something. I mentioned congratulating them for an award. That's another good way. But a lot of companies have come together to actually sponsor this conference. And so a great way before we even get there to interact with them is to thank them for their sponsorship. And to find out which people are sponsoring what, we'll go to the conference website. You can go down and see Chevron, Dell, PepsiCo. These are all companies that have sponsored the conference, and you can go through and thank them and start out your relationship on that note. That it's also really appreciated because when you thank them, that's also, again, you're publicly thanking them for something good that they're doing. And when you use the hashtag means that's going to appear with all the other conference tweets as we looked at. We'll look here for WeConnect International Day. It's going to appear here. And when you mention their name, it's going to appear directly on their own company's timeline. So you get additional visibility there. So I highly recommend going through and doing that if you plan to use social media while you're there. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a second. I see that someone else joined us. Great. Are there any questions? And I'm going to actually, Linda, I'm going to unmute you since we have a more intimate group today. And see, I know you joined a little late. Do you have any questions so far?
I actually had dialed in, and I was having trouble connecting, so I ended up connecting through my telephone. My
great.
Got into the presentation. It's a little bit small, but it's working.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you were able to join us. Sometimes WebEx can be a little glitchy, but I am recording this, so you can also look back at any of the stuff you missed. But I'm glad you're here. And since we have a smaller group today, you can feel free to jump in if you do have any questions.
Okay, great.
Yep. So retweets and shares. So retweets and shares, I talked a little bit about those. The things that are going to make sure that you're retweeted and that people share. Now, what's the value of that? You know, if you have a great picture and you want to put it up, why does it matter if anyone shares it or anyone retweets it? And you know, the short answer is it doesn't necessarily. You know, you are going to be seen in this along with the other sponsors and corporate members and government people. So tweeting in itself, even if nobody shares it or retweets it, that doesn't give you an indication of how many people did actually look at it. If you think about 3,000 or 4,000 people coming to the WeBank conference, hundreds of people coming to WeConnect International Day, you know that people are starting to have eyes on your brand. And so I would say, well, the result is direct. You hit the button and it appears there. The impacts are more long-term, so you want to think about it that way. But the value of retweeting and sharing is that if you think about the companies here or a company, let's go back to the WeBank. Let's go to WeBank Conf and look at that. Okay. If you look at what's trending here, so Shell, if you think about Shell, the value here is that the people that are looking at Shell's feed, now Shell has 980 followers, they will promote your tweet to 980 more people. Let's say you only have 12 followers. Well, by mentioning companies or being in this group of people, you can not only get more followers, but when people share and retweet your information, they're getting it out to even more people. So that's the value of that. And again,
can you switch over to that screen? We're not seeing your.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to share. I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for speaking up. Here we are. So this is the WeBank Conf timeline. You can see it's a little bit different because it's not the WeBank 2015 hashtag. I would say you can use either or both. For WeConnect International Day, we're only using one hashtag, so all of the comments are consolidated in one place. I would say there's not a huge difference. There might be, when you get to the conference, one hashtag might rise to the top in terms of which ones people are using more. They might promote one over another, in which case I'd use the one that they're promoting because more people are going to congregate, so to speak, at that one. What I was showing you was that you can look at these different companies, even if you only have a few followers. If you look at Pinnacle Group, which is a sponsor, they have 1,400 followers. So when you tweet at Pinnacle HQ, their followers are all going to see that appear in this timeline, and as well as all the people that attend the conference. And then when people share it, it just multiplies that effect. So that's a little bit about Twitter and how to use the hashtags. If you have any questions, let me know. There's one more I want to show you, which is WeBank's Twitter feed, which is at WeBank Live. Again, the importance of looking at this in advance. If you just tweet at WeBank, that's not the one people will be using. But if you look at WeBank Live, you'll get a lot of up-to-date information about what's going on.
Would you recommend us start following already before we go to conference?
I would, yep. Okay. And I talked about that a little bit before, but I would recommend following WeBank. And let me go back. Actually, I'll just go back to that slide so you can look at that. These are the hashtags and handles that I recommend getting started with following, as well as the hashtags and the handles for any of the corporations that you plan on approaching. That will be there, and you'll start to get a sense of what they're doing with regard to the conference, and how, if you're new to social media or if you're just a little bit, it seems overwhelming or just yet another thing to do, you can always just look. You can look and just share. Retweeting is as easy as clicking a button, and then you can start to interact and see how other people are doing it, see what seems to gain a lot of traction, and imitate those things. I'm going to start sharing. Go ahead.
Can I, you had mentioned about an infographic that you sent out. Is it possible to still get it? It's Linda Miller.
Yes. You can actually get that. We have it on our Facebook page and our Twitter feed, so I'll show you that. Well, let's go to our Facebook page so I can just show you. And you can go to facebook.com/WeConnection. So one thing, what I mentioned about Facebook as opposed to Twitter and why you might want to do both, Twitter is immediate. So, you know, something's happening and you are almost, you know, I like to, the way I keep involved when I'm doing Twitter at a conference is like I think of myself as a reporter. Like I'm finding the headlines and tweeting them out to people and getting that information out there. With Facebook, it's a little more visual. People maybe spend a little more time with each individual post. So I think that's a good place to kind of wrap up, either on a daily basis or after your week at the WEConnect International Day and the WeBank Conference. It's a good place to put all your pictures in an album and say, okay, going along the week, this is what happened. When you look at WEConnect's page, you can see we've got a lot of information about the conference, and then here is the infographic I mentioned. And what you can do, you can just click on that. If you right-click on it, you can save the image, you can print it out, do whatever you need to do. And that really encapsulates a lot of the preparatory information that we have given out over the couple days, couple weeks, really. So that's, I think those are the key things to do. Those are the basic things that that you can do and you can start doing now, so you can get a sense of who's all going to be there. Linda, you mentioned you're doing this webinar from your iPhone, from your phone, and that's pretty much what you're going to be using when you are at the conference. While the screen, your computer screen provides, it's easier to type, you can sort of navigate things better. When you're on your phone, things are going to be going quickly. But if you've downloaded the Twitter application, one of the things that I like about it and doing it from my phone is that when I follow people, so let's say I followed WeBank Live and I followed WeConnection, when I go to tweet mentioning those people, it'll actually start to fill it in for me. So you can, if I start at WE, it'll say, are you about to tweet at WeConnection? And I can just fill it in automatically. That's particularly helpful for people you tweet a lot, but then also I mentioned the speakers, Danica Patrick, Jonathan Sprinkles, those people that are going to be speaking. When you want to quote them or mention that they're inspiring or it's so interesting to be here with them, you can just mention them right away without having to look it up, and see which person is which. And I find, and certainly you can do, if you're more comfortable with Facebook, you can certainly do Facebook from your phone as well. You can like things and share things. One other thing I would recommend doing in advance is downloading the WeBank mobile app. So this, again, this is a tool for you. If it's starting to feel like I have to manage Facebook and Twitter and the mobile app, pick the one that is going to be the most, one that's realistic that you're actually going to use, and then one that you feel comfortable with. I mentioned at the beginning, Linda, too, that if your director of communications does anything that's in conflict with what I'm saying, definitely follow her advice, because she's the expert not only on these types of communications on social media, but your overall strategy. So you want to keep in mind that all these things should be in line with what your strategy already is. But I think the mobile app will actually be helpful. You're going to get updated. You can set your conference schedule so you have it right on your phone. You don't have to deal with something you're carrying around. When is that and what's happening? It's going to give you updates on that. You can view exhibitor locations, and you'll be able to get sponsor and exhibitor lists. I think the most important, you can streamline your social media feed, so you can, I believe you'll be able to see some of the various social media feeds for the conference there. I think the most important thing is real-time updates. We've all been to events, and some of us have planned events, and we know that sometimes things change, maybe a room moves. You'll be able to get real-time updates through that app, so I think that's important. And then,
Linda, sorry, Liz, I just wanted to, Linda, it's Lana Walsh. And yes. I'm sending out an email later today with everything on it to give you tips and tricks for the conference, and that includes the mobile app. And now it will include some of these hashtags and names for you to include in your Twitter feed. So watch for that email later today.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks, Lana. So that's pretty much it. I think I can wrap up here. It's it's very basic and very geared toward this conference, but I think it can help you as you go forward with your with what you're doing. And I think the key things to keep in mind are three things. One, what I keep mentioning, which is like, be true to yourself and your brand. You don't have to try and be someone you're not, you know, just because you're on social media. Keep it short and sweet. Twitter will make you do that since you only have 140 characters. Really, I think it's fun to kind of distill the information into one quotable thing and see if people are going to share that. I think as a business owner approaching the corporations, again, keeping it short and sweet and just following up, you know, thank you to the corporations for sponsoring, congratulations on any awards they win. Those kind of things are really very welcome and a good, easy way to get started with engaging with the corporation, starting that, that two-way conversation. And finally, while everything is immediate and, you know, you might tweet something and be like, oh, I spelled that wrong, or, you know, I don't really want that, you can always delete it. While we hear horror stories about, you know, things going viral, I mean, you definitely want to think about what you're putting up there. It's very public, but for the most part, if you're keeping it positive anyway and thanking people and congratulating them, then you shouldn't have any problems. And if you do spell something wrong, you can delete the tweets and just start over. One of the most valuable things, I was actually at a workshop yesterday where we talked about this, one of the most valuable things about social media is it allows you to sort of see what works fast and then redirect fast if it's not working. So if you find you're spending too much time tweeting a company that never, you know, that isn't interacting or engaging with you, you can just redirect that strategy. And as long as you keep it positive, then you haven't lost anything. So that's my presentation. This is the last of our presentations about the conference. I look forward to hearing how it goes. I'm actually not going to be there next week, but I will be following everything on social media. So you will see me on social media retweeting you all, I hope, and different WeConnection stats and facts. But overall, I hope you have fun with it. I look forward to hearing a lot of success stories that we can then share afterwards. And I hope you have safe travels. Do you guys have any questions for me? I didn't catch that. Was that a question? Okay. All right. Well, great. Well, thank you so much. I will be recording this. Oh, I can hear it, but it sounds very scratchy. What were you saying? I still can't hear it. Can you maybe chat in the chat? Yeah. It's hard for me to It might just be feedback, but if you can put it in the chat window, that would be great. It might be just an echo of myself. But thanks very much. We can close out the webinar now. Like I mentioned, I'll send the recording out and you can share it. And yeah, have a great week next week. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.